Good evening, and welcome to the final hour. I'm your host, Mike Raider. Tonight, I introduce you to the final hour dancers for their last performance of the year. Give it up.
Flexibility, dexterity, coordination. Important. Keeps us young, vital.
Welcome back. It has been a great year and a pleasant year. With great sadness, we end the program. The final hour. Thank you for watching. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome. This is episode number 5 of this podcast, talking session, therapy session, whatever you want to call it. I have a microphone set up now, which is slightly better, but it's only appearing in one channel, so later on I have to edit it out. And then at some point I will get a dual adapter and I'll work it out. I wonder if the noise is going to be a lot better on this device and this system than it is with my video camera, which has the XLR inputs on top of the camera. The way I'm running this right now, I'm using my Nikon D3500, my Comica preamp, I think that's what I ordered it as, and my Atomos Ninja 2, which is an older monitor recorder type thing that takes SSD or just a 2.5 inch hard drive. And so far it's working very decently. It's all on top of the DSLR right now. I wish I could take a photo, but I don't actually have that right now. And today I want to talk about a couple of things. I've covered this before, but how to save money and just a brief understanding of what to do and what to avoid. And gardening, talk about gardening, and have a general chit-chat. And right now, before we get into all that, I want to talk about Temu, whatever you want to call it. It's a website, none other than like eBay and Amazon and Shein and DHgate and Alibaba and all the other websites where you can order stuff online, and it's usually cheap stuff or garbage stuff, I like to call it. But I did purchase something hilarious, and the reason I purchased it because I was looking for a component for my generator, but I didn't quite understand how the website works, so I ended up spending $58 when I only needed to spend $15. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that pops up, and then next minute with all the recommendations I've actually got all this random shit in the mail. Part of the reason I'm switching to Temu is because so far I've received everything that has come in the mail. And right now I'll show you two things that came. And these were on my recommendations. And it's very odd that they came because I would be suspicious of me if I ordered this and I didn't realize till later. Anyway, so one thing, and I'll actually put it on and whatnot. and get it all prepared. So you'll hear sounds of nature right now. Oh God, it smells like shit. So one thing is this mask. I don't know if you can hear me, but one of the things is this mask that I ordered. And the other thing is this Glock. This bloody Glock, mate. Like, and then you got magazine, and then frickin' like, I'm surprised they sent this combination, considering what I look like right now. See, these are the two extra things that came in the mail. Just can't believe it. And you obviously know what it would do. So, fuck. Pulled the cartridge out, and I can't see. And I'm probably talking louder than I should. Put the little bullet in. If I can get it to fucking work. Very much having trouble seeing what I'm doing. So I put one in. Yeah, put that back on. And now a shell should fly out here. And then a little orange tip should let's see. Right, so yeah, there that went. Oh. Oh, fuck. And this is what costed me upwards of $60, but I will be using that mask and Glock toy for a future video. Just a random video when my camera comes back, I suppose. Ugh. I don't know where that other piece went, but I'll look later. So I ordered a mask, the Glock, this petrol flow through system for the generator. For some reason I can't figure that out either. And a small crucible for my furnace. And my partner told me, I don't know if that's going to come in the mail, because it might look like you're trying to do something you shouldn't be. So that's out of the way. And the reason I didn't know what the hell I was doing is because it was popping up and telling me that if I do such and such, or put $40 in my cart, I'll end up, I don't know, getting some sort of weird discounts. But then by the end of it, I had $60 worth of shit. Needless to say, I probably won't be doing that again. But anyway, I got something cool out of it. So I'd like to talk about gardening first and foremost. Now, gardening is simple but difficult at the same time, and if you can ignore the seasons, especially if you live where you have autumn, winter, spring, summer, if you can ignore all that but follow a basic thing, then you'll pretty much get by. And I'm still struggling to this day. But I'll try and give some advice. And one thing, and this is going to be funny to say, considering I'm making a video about it, a lot of YouTube stuff is very contradicting. One person will say one thing, another person will say something else, and then it becomes confusing, and then you'll sort of be like me, where I'm 4 years living where I live, and I still haven't completely sorted my shit out, basically. So yeah, if you plan to go off the grid and you get, say, like a quarter acre, half an acre, whatever it might be, even less than that, I don't know. My opinion is to make sure you look at whether or not you're going to have natural resources on your own land or in the surrounding areas that you can have access to. If you have a good winter where everything will grow and you get a lot of green stuff like weeds and grass and anything that you can use in a compost, that would be handy. Or if you know a neighbour with an abandoned block of land, or you know them personally and they're not willing to use their resources, maybe you can borrow some of theirs. By borrow, I mean you take it and then you give them something back, I suppose. And in summer or in other seasons or during the whole year, if you have access to fallen leaves or access to dry grass that's been around since summer, definitely consider that. And then pretty much instantaneously pile a mixture of both and then leave it there to rot away. And leave it there on the earth, rather, and, the first few weeks, maybe leave it alone and then mix it and then leave it alone again. And then you'll have some compost to use. And the other thing I recommend is not using all of your compost in one go. To combat this, I would recommend starting some seedlings, however you do that, and then finding places, or experiment. You'll have to experiment to figure out where the pests are and what the pests are and everything like that, because for some reason this year we haven't got many of those around. We usually get some. Anyway, basically get involved with just digging a hole, mixing some of that soil with your compost, and then trying to grow vegetables and whatnot that way, rather than spreading compost over a garden bed and wasting all your compost in one go, and you only get one generation of plants for that season. And then you end up wasting all your compost. Start out with maybe some herbs, because a lot of herbs, they can just grow in anything. The experiments would be to see how the soil will take to some seeds in it. And in one thing as well, take some of that soil and put it in a pot and soak that in some water to actually see whether or not that soil will hold the seeds in, over like a few weeks, or if it would germinate at all. And you can even leave it in that water to soak until you've got vegetables, basically, like lettuce and kale and whatnot. I'm currently doing that with a pond setup, where I've got all the nutrients and whatnot for my soil and for my vegetables and everything, all in the pond. It's not too difficult, and I would stop doing all this overly complicated research, because one person will be negative and the next person will be positive, and then you'll realize that they're wrong and they're wrong and they're right, and then everyone's just so different, and then you won't even realize that a lot of them live in the tropics, or a lot of them live in a hot place where the season's just one thing almost all year round, where everything grows. And it's taken me like years to realize that. The advice is not to go too crazy all at once, but also really just don't overly complicate things. The seasons will be a bugger, and it will be hard to figure out what's what, but yeah, starting to plant things is important. And I would also get like fruit trees, flowers, different types of plants to start with, maybe, because you'll notice when you plant them all in sort of like one little setting, you'll find that possibly a lot of the pests will be deterred. I don't know whether I just have pure luck, or whether last year to this year has been absolutely good. I've got things in certain spots that are going well, and also things take time, especially with the herbs growing, and little trees, and everything takes time. Your your vegetables, your weeds, your herbs, your whatever you want to call it, especially vegetables and that, they take time to grow. It's been like a month or so, and I'm still getting lettuce to grow in my pond, and lettuce to grow on the ground, and snow peas and such to grow. Although I say it's like hard and easy at the same time, it can be extremely hard altogether. And to me, I'm trying to work out a way to, I don't know, have things grow in the earth forever, so that I don't have to continue to create compost piles. And if you have a lot of patience, maybe you'll start out by trying to fix the soil, unlike me, that is like 4 years in, and I don't know, still having some struggles. But I'm actually quite happy at the moment, because I've got pockets of areas that are sort of connected with one another, that I think this year will be absolutely perfect if I can play my cards right. What I mean by this year, I mean like when spring and summer comes around again. My grapevine grew very well, and grew the seeds properly, and grew the fruits properly last year. So it would be nice to drag that on, and all the herbs will get bigger, and all these little things that I planted, like the berry plants and kangaroo fruit and all these things, they should go well this year. And if not, then I've just bragged about it too much, and whoops. Yeah, it was not too difficult. collect your resources, hopefully on your land or your surrounding areas. Create a big compost pile, leave it alone, mix it every now and then. Work around other methods. Don't always buy into what people say. If you are a healthy eater and you buy a lot of fruits and vegetables, use that in the scrap pile, maybe mix in some newspaper, although I've had problems with trying to use newspaper. I prefer to use leaves from eucalyptus trees, dry ones. They've worked perfectly for me, mixing in with anything. And it will all work out perfectly. Now, so one thing that really bothers me the most is people that I know. I've explained our story on how we became to own property and how we came about it, what we actually did to do it, and they either don't believe it because they are in extreme struggle right now, or they think it's unfair that we own something and they don't. What people don't understand is that we made a very big sacrifice, a very big one. We were living and paying for rent from 2014 to 2019. So what's that, like a 5-year period? And we were wasting all of our money on everything and anything. We would just buy whatever we wanted and just didn't care about money or anything like that. Our rent back in the day, the very first time we paid rent, was $210, I'd say. It might have been $200, but I'd say $210. And then we paid, when we moved in 2016, we paid, I think the highest was like $215. That's why I say it was probably $200 in the little unit we were in. And then 2016, I'd say we moved in 2015, sorry. I took over a lease of from my sister and her partner. And I was still living at my parents' house. And that was like a big move for me. And me and my partner moved in together. And then in 2015, we applied for our own rental, and that was hard. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was doing, but we did it anyway. And in 2014, we were offered to rent to buy the little unit, which is now worth double the price. So at the time it was about probably 200,000 to 20,000. Now it's like 400,000 or something like that. So if we were smart back then, we would have probably paid it off. But well, nearly. I don't know. Within 10 years. Anyway. So we moved and then stayed in the other rental for like the remainder of the 4 years, I suppose. 3 to 4 years. Where we paid $215 a week, and if anyone does the maths, we've given away at least $50,000 worth of rent in that 5-year period. And I like to look at things in a lengthy scale as well, where people don't. They don't realise that even if you get a subscription for the whole year, you're paying $100, and that's $100. And then you've got another subscription, that's another $100, and then you've got this and that, and that's another this and that. So I did all the maths on that, and I looked at how much we were paying per year, which included how much rent we gave away in a year. That included what bills we were paying in a year, and all of a sudden it adds up, and then you're paying like half the money in a whole year, and wondering why you have no money. And that's what I came to the conclusion of. And it was a slow transition in the brain, because it's like jumping in deep and quick. And so I don't know what the maths was like now. I know that it was at least $10,000 for a year just to give someone rent. Well, how do I calculate it? So let's say $200 a week times 52. So yeah, that's like, yeah, that is $10,000, and then you have, if every quarter we gave electricity $240, which we did, I don't know what that would be. So 2 times 4, $800. And if we did that with gas as well, I don't know if that was combined, but it just, and food as well, it all adds up. And so transition to thinking about, can we get a gas bottle and do it ourselves? Can we have alternative power? What if we reduce the need for everything? And that's what happened. Made the sacrifice, got rid of all of our stuff, and coming to the realization that we didn't need it all. All we needed to do was cook and live simply. So we did that, and we made a huge risk by thinking about living in a caravan. And back then we didn't think about anything. So we ended up getting a loan to buy a caravan, and that was a debt that we were in, and if that had failed, we would have had to pay for this and been poor and been struggling even more. So we took that caravan, and long story short, we ended up putting that in storage. Well, we did pay $150 a week at a caravan park at one point, so it was less money, but we still had to pay up, and that was in the middle of nowhere, sort of, and our closest town was 25 k's away, so I don't know, we put ourselves in a situation where we wanted to go to town all the time, which is more petrol and more things we're buying, so that's one problem. Then we called it in, went all the way to Queensland and paid $280 a week. Well, after about, I don't know how long it was, we got help with the rent because we were called up there. But in short, we ended up paying $280 a week. That would have been for a couple of months at least. I can't prove that. I can't remember. But we still ended up using a gas bottle and whatnot, and we saved money from doing all that, from not participating in everything. We didn't want to have much. We lived simply, and we were still happy. We got to go do things while we were up in Queensland. No different, but we were happier because we weren't down to our last $2 or down to nothing. And that's what people don't understand, is that when they complain and say that, they're renting and we didn't have to deal with all these problems. Yes, we did. And that's what peeves me off. We've made more of a sacrifice than anyone else has that we know. And because of that, we got what we wanted. It's not perfect, but we're not paying rent. And I'm not trying to say renting is bad. I'm trying to say if people want to get out of that, they absolutely can. You just have to open up your mind and just do what you want to do and do it. And you have to snap out of it and realize that you're consuming too much. And of course the habits came back, but you've got to realize that you don't need all this shit. You need to clothe yourself, you need to have food and water and make sure you're somewhat clean, but you don't need to be extreme. And some people, well, everyone's situation is extremely different, that's obvious. That's very obvious. I might just... And I'll try and find some examples. There might be someone who has full-time work, part-time work, whatever employment they have. But I can't really speak for everyone, but if people want to do it, I think that they should absolutely just step right in. But that, of course, you would need family, I suppose, but you can do it. It's so much easier if you're a single person or if you are in a relationship without children as well. That's easier, but toughen up and you can get it done. A lot of people I know that are complaining they waste all their money, and they just spend in excess and they don't need to. Now the next part I want to talk about on this is, I don't know if I talked about it before, but trying to save money in a different aspect by actually cutting costs in your food shopping, because I know it costs a lot of money for food and they keep increasing the prices, but there are loopholes, and although you're paying extra, there's still loopholes around it. And I'm not going to talk highly of chocolate and all that nasty stuff, but I'm going to explain it if people if people absolutely need that type of thing, and I'm not shy of that anyway. So there'll be different types of products and they'll be cut into little pieces and sold for more or less. Usually things are cut into pieces and made smaller and then they charge more for it, but there are specials out there, so you've got to look at the grams and everything. And I don't know if I want to talk about this too much, but because it might not make sense, but for example, I think it was yesterday, there was like chocolate at full price and it's gone up by a lot. It's like $2.50 for a chocolate bar when it's usually $2. That's without the special. And I don't know, you look at the grams and you find a cheaper option. So if you want 3 chocolate bars, it's like $7.50. Well, the block of chocolate that gives you more value is going to be $7. And I'm not saying to buy more because obviously people need to work on their habits. But also it depends on what you want to do. If you want to... the best thing I can say is eat less and you'll save more. Now, I'm not saying to starve yourself, but a bag of apples might be $6. And if you buy 2 bags of apples, it's $12. But for a single person, again, if you want an apple a day, you'll certainly have, in 1 week, you'll have, so 7 days in a week, you'll have one like, for $6, you'll have like 1 apple a day for sure. And if you want 1 onion a day, then you buy a bag of onions. And if you want just buy a bag of nuts. So you can keep everything with under $100 in the week. I mean, that's still a lot of money, but even still, you could go back to downscale it to about $50, but that means you are trying to find things that still are better for you, but also getting in little fillers, I suppose. So a bag of apples, $6, spend no more than $12 on a bag of nuts, and then in one session you can have I'm talking like cashews, which are expensive, but you could get shelled nuts, and that would be like $6 for a bag or something. And you could pick that and make it a thing and have your little apple, and then you can buy like a bundle of bananas, and then you've got an apple, banana, and some nuts. And that could be under $20 if you're lucky for those three things. To be able to have, one banana a day, one apple a day, and maybe a handful of nuts a day, depending. And then you could buy like 3 bags of pasta, and in one meal you could have half a bag of pasta or a quarter bag of pasta, and then mix in some onions, and get little bits and pieces of vegetables and really calculate it to a T, so then you only use like a certain amount. Because what I've noticed is if you use a little bit of one thing and use a little bit of another thing and a little bit of another thing, you'll realize you've got a big meal. There's so much scrap to be wasted, and you could get a bag of carrots, you could get this and that, and if you really tried hard enough, you could spend $50 for an individual a week. And again, no more than $100. But in reality, that's hard to do if you have habits. And I'm not always a conscious person. I spend a lot because I need to buy what my children need and what I need. And these days I spend way more than I used to on shopping, but back then I wasn't spending that much on food shopping, and we were making we were eating, but we were making, meals and everything, and it's just about the little portions during the day that really made up an entire day of food for everyone to eat, and it didn't cost too much. It gets into a dark world when you start smoking and drinking alcohol and buying lots of Kentucky or McDonald's, and people feel like they can't get rid of any of that, and that's where the excuses come in. We did get rid of a lot of that because, again, if you look at all your receipts, it adds up like a motherfucker. And if you can just make your own shit, even if you're still going to the store, you can make your own food. And if you really need sugar, a cake mix isn't that much money. But, and you can make a cake mix in anything. You can make a cake mix on the stove with a pot, for fuck's sake. If you're in dire need. One thing I will say, the way the savings helped a lot is living next to a shop, really, or close to a shop, within at least walking distance, because you can walk there every day and know how much you can eat, or you've got that little bit extra where you don't feel like you can't save money. I mean, it sounds like a problem to have, to be close to a store when you're saving, but really, if you are very smart about it, yeah, I reckon that's what helped us a lot. Whereas now, it's harder to save because we're so much further away, and spending like $100 a week on fuel, that's a good safety net to actually get to the big town, to all the little towns, and actually be able to do stuff every day. But again, yeah. But as in terms of like looking for deals at the store, you can do that. It can become so silly in your mind, like it has for me. Like, if I absolutely need like chocolate, in the past I've waited for a good deal and then I've stockpiled on that deal. Like, for example, a block of chocolate in the baking aisle, and it was good chocolate, was $2.50 for one block. I haven't seen that deal in a while, and I ended up buying like 40 blocks of chocolate, just to, because I knew that we were eating like 2 blocks a day shared or whatever, and that was costing us like $12 just for 2 blocks because we went to the servo all the time anyway. Same, you can just buy like a bottle of Coke or whatever, but that's just silly. I think the better way is to, if you want a ham roll or something, you buy a pack of rolls that'll last a few days, or if you can stretch the rolls out to a week, then that's bloody even better. And then you can just take a couple slices of ham and cheese. So that's one other way of doing it. But if you really just down to a T, you'll be able to save money just like that and make the ultimate sacrifice. Because a lot of people are struggling because they finance everything. And then that's where it becomes a problem. And I'll just pause for a minute so we can listen to these birds. And we're back. I think this file size is going to be very big. Although it fits on the SSD hard drive. The settings are on, what is it? 422 Apple ProRes, which is very lucky to have on this type of device. But it will not record in 4K as far as I'm concerned. But it's alright. And yeah, for the DSLR, I want to set it at the highest resolution I can if I'm recording externally. I don't record externally normally, but I'm using it to sync the audio together because I've got an audio device that's separate. So rather than syncing it later, it should sync it automatically as I talk with the video. It depends, I guess, on the frame rates and I don't know. Latency? I don't know. Yeah. Oh man, so after I ramble for a while, it's hard to think of anything. I'm gonna make a couple of videos. I don't know if I'll add it to this. Oh, now it's becoming windy. I don't even know if it's the afternoon. I might have lied about that. Just a moment of silence while I think of shit to say. It depends on how much you get too, how much you earn. If you are living in a rental, you can still make do. You just have to delete everything from existence, basically, to a nothing, to a T. A lot of people that I know of and know, they take in a fair amount of money a week, and if rent is their only concern, that's all I would look at. If your rent is 400 and you make 1,000, okay, you got 400 on that. Then you've got food. Now you put the 200 on it, and then you stop. You think about what you're doing, and then you go, okay, if I have the 400 left, let's try and work in this budget to try and get 200 in savings a week. And that would mean you got to make sure all your children are fed properly, and people will go, oh, that's impossible. But it's not. Because it goes back to the bag of apples, the thing of bananas, the buying the carrots, buying the onions, buying every little thing to make things that are basic. And if your store is really close, that is perfect, because you can go and budget and work out, can I feed my family for $200 a week? Because I know it adds up very quickly. But then I also know that I made a huge sacrifice and we were able to eat. But, I didn't necessarily buy all these vegetables and all that in the past, but, a lot of people, they take their car out to get to a shop that's within walking distance. And I think that's where the problem occurs. And if you have that shop close by, you won't need to run the refrigerator, you won't need to do this, you won't need to do that. You can become less slack and start saving. And I'm not trying to insult anybody, but that is the harshest truth that we had to face. And with that, I will leave with the nature again, and I am out.